excuse me, dear Vice President Harris and former President Trump, I'll donate through you guys. Pantheism, a form of it being led by that identity which has time, like the extent of things we know were true always from the past, and the extent of it, things that we know are true always now grouped, active, and the extent of things that we know are true in our value here now, even though they're not here, like the seasons, their difference slash s. And like for example, the relativity of our temperature needs as a species, distinct from the other species, but non-distinct, and for that which is further hyper simultaneous. We could call it other, but we have to agree to call it something. And this is why I'm a pantheist. But I appreciate the way they won't let even the people. In other words, the beginning of the old Quran, the Old Testament, in the beginning of the Quran, those religious books come with a part that says only defend right here. It says in defend. In the Old Testament, it says only defend right here. In the part where the names of the people, the sciences will come together. And the part that comes before it, where there's the parsing of good and of good, and know how an identity has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. Where how more and more positive as forever nature as identity is being forged. But see, now we're through systems tactical ulterior from its own, which nature itself shows us the difference between positive as criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and syntactically. For example, Harvard Hospital has doctors who threaten. They're involved with people that are involved with a Jamie Smith and a David Smith, and their mother is associated with people with the Afghan leaders and kids, and intermilitary, the rules with Koreans, etc. At the Wethersfield town offices. Now, they run in and hide life progressions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, military, foreign, and domestic. Whole bunch of intercultural people forging. They pretended through the mail they had conversations with me, with a Leahy family. Increasingly rolls with wire crimes that falsify police reports with people from other areas who came here and made it look like I was connected to them and the other kids connected to them. By catching me alone and all kinds of predicate acts roles, because predicate acts with facts, methods, and roles with the people speaking about crimes, increasingly collusion at the crime scenes, all sides in criminal and civil cases in Connecticut, and the same names involved all sides of the criminal case of the civil case. Next to the next to the World Trade Center attack that day, the Ninth Circuit Court next to it, and with people named Scalora, increasingly in recorded confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, other cousins of theirs, and people associated with the name Scalora, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with people they didn't even go to my schools. There was a Claudia Scalora I never saw on a campus in my life. She's one of the ones involved with Central Connecticut State University with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people associated with his co-defendants and their family members and neighbors who are involved with a whole bunch of different kinds of judges and medical families, foreign and domestic, in the businesses and houses next to the campuses, including the medical and fire campuses, has something to do with their roles preventing me free speech and attaching me to fake conversations with everyone around me for the torture method. Two, and they won't get on writing since I was a kid. There's a Judge Smith. I was never around him when he had when he had robberies. Asabi Bajario. He did robberies and stole radios. And I traded him for a radio for a guy associated with the Action Audio and the location it's at now in Weathersfield. And people along the Brown Turnpike associate with him with people with the name Tomorrow, who are involved with child offenders that were first forced and then caught more than one time. And they had time collusions also with the victims of such, with the principal child offender, a Bean. I caught them with that first. These are the same families with medical families with their kids involved. And the FBI has more upskirt pictures on Twitter rolls and playing games. See, they make people fight with their neighbors or say nothing, and then with foreign bodies involved. And the same thing is there too, because there's also hyperforeign. If we follow the fact treatment, the scientific value and these guys said if I didn't sign a thing one time, they were going to stab me in the arm. And there was a kid who threatened me, so I couldn't talk to it. There was a black doctor, which is important because these are some black KKK themed, Latino themed, attached me to fake conversations with the police as a kid, fake knowing that. And then as an adult too. And I wasn't even in classes with them. There's an Eric Mendez and a Janito Mendez. And there was people. There was a Joshua Julian. There's a Joshua Julian and a Joshua Schumack involved with digital upskirt natures, offenders of kids, leaders with the principal upskirt nature. They have more roles on Twitter with the ones with the name Ian, and with the Parks and Recreation, and people who had conversations with the police when I was a kid. Who did have conversations with the police, and they changed their words and faked with their words and hit with how they had roles with those kids with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and not legitimately where they have their acting professors involved too. At corners of streets on Church Street in Old Weathersfield, people went out of their way to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm roles with federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slander, still sequence shifts. As people involved with sequence shift, proven with the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center Tower that day, in the court next to it, names on all sides of that involved at Central Connecticut State University. The difference of the police there, the police off the campus, and their family members, all sides of that campus, that have all kinds of predicate acts with facts, methods, with judges and prosecutors and their family members involved with the same house on my street with them. There's a Brian Silver, who's one of the ones on Covington Street involved with men and women with the name Bobby. And they share that. And they're hiding behind their right to lie relative to their roles with East Hartford, where they make airplanes and the locations next to it. In other words, and she has a whole bunch of, there's a leasing agent and her son is involved. These are people involved before the World Trade Center attack from Connecticut in that context and extends. There's an Aaron Murphy, and our people associated with Senator Chris Murphy, with the difference between the parties also used remotely criminally foreign influence relative to treatments of black and white too, and their roles with the names next to the campuses in Hartford and Weathersfield and Rocky Hill and New Britain and Sickly Distinctly. And they have everyone running in with groupthink, and you're lying to the people. You have fake conversations with me with WFSB and about the World Trade Center attack. As further roles with torture and extortion and preventing me from speaking. Then they go and use words like radical and extremism. They changed my words on Facebook. The difference between the people at Facebook, the FBI involved, and other police forms like Weathersfield Police Book's Facebook page, New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page, roles with overt predicate acts after the World Trade Center, as their roles with West Hartford locations before the World Trade Center attack. There's also the wife of Justin Klavinskis and his brother interstate involved. I never met his brother in my life. They're involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, with a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital who are involved with Yukon Families Intelligence, Central Connecticut State University, and So, and they're connected. And Trinity College and the locations next to it, a whole bunch of people involved with untimely deaths, even if they're made up, and predicate acts, and fabricating and changing digital evidences, and planting also a fake letter. And these are people roles with the like New Mexico. Their roles with you know Canada with the Violet as the ones with the Hartford Hospital. A whole bunch of people with Hartford Hospital involved with the community center with foreign and domestic medical families, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with their differences rackets, and judges speaking fake things in records with the same house with them involved with overt criminal enterprises and child defenders, leaders of the kids, and trying to plant fake exceptions. Sometimes it's themselves, sometimes it's the other people that influence them to ask questions in time where people are going to be and make a fake exception real quick being next to someone or two. They have me go skiing to make fake exception and make it look like I with Ray Reynolds and Joe DeMauro. He put fake evidences in there. I never used to contact Joe DeMauro. I only know him recorded involved criminally. I in other words, their police forms family. I didn't know. But I knew I recorded them with police forms. I didn't know the names of them. Ones more and more I know. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski, Dominic Lepriata, and no, but a whole bunch of people next to Fox Connecticut News, next to WFSB, and next to WTNH are involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with them, and corruption with fire departments involved. All the different campuses, including medical ones. They've been putting fake transcripts as collusions with all natures of crime scenes. Then they have to speak about crimes. This breaching method, forgiveness is not to give up, but not to leave out the breaching method recorded with remote uses of the sense and sensibilities regarding the nature of debate, regarding the quality of fact nature, because nature shows us you guys are leaving out and faking exceptions, and you guys are preventing free speech and relying upon that. Pretend our speech is about who we vote for. Both sides, and the differences involved with a shell game worse than war crimes at countries A through Z too, because of a method you guys have replaced what James Madison and our founders communicated to us and about their use of his plan and how we were supposed to refer to our founders as the ones behind him and his plan. And then they went and got George Washington to agree to that plan, which no one had means but through that plan, which was to counter extort at key locations and force the first 13 states to unfold, even though the breaching method was still entrenched sickly distinctly northern colonies and southern colonies with slavery. And see, with that replaced, you guys go, oh, well, the North was about, both of them were about freedom. Both of them were about countering that which really had the slavery entrenched and rolls with it, or that person was sentenced. And them hurting everyone around them to keep everyone sensing. Rolls with that quality of fact achieving nature. Oh, this person said this, so that means that. Let's get with the predicate acts with facts method. Let's get with how do they interpret Marbury versus Madison? Real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. How could they interpret? They have to self-value. The books and the differences of the campuses A through Z in the books, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, convictions by what was actually recorded and by what appears to have been recorded. In other words, so all sides of criminal and civil case, you guys painted yourselves in corners. All formal identities of law, private identities of law. There's a Trantolo and Trantolo. I barely had any conversations with him and the person who worked for him. In other words, they use the word conspiracy theory to change what people say. See, the President Trump doesn't have legal help proper, and neither does even the vice president while they're in office. doesn't have legal help because the legal help, the science is individually grouped in together. Their shared identity and voicings for humanity. They're currently foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Because you guys had the differences between the campuses. So this breaching method measures and maintains at countries A through Z. The suits and ties, the counters and exceptions, collusions with itself, incapable of affording discern that which the founders at A through Z actually want. In America and in Russia and in Ukraine, the suburbs, they're that basic design where there were homes built before America's founders were even born. No one had free speech. They had to lie about their motivations with what really caused everything. Oh, it was about a tea tax. No, it was slavery entrenched, northern colony, southern. It was a breaching method against everyone, using everyone's difference, using every difference, because nature communicates with difference. That's why we have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. It's not just that simple. Where that is an identity that makes that such. It shows us because the other species have two eyes also, distinct but also non-distinct. It shows us simultaneously, but also per further simultaneous, per science. See, but we have theory and we have nature debate, the uses of names and counters to it, just it forces name calling and dishonest motivations. So hope there in other words, what's actually recorded is I minded my business and I got along with everyone. When there was people and there were people who went to the office tried to make fake exceptions before. And they put fake things in the databases at the same time as collusion slash S with these people from the other countries. And increasingly, it's with people from Hartford Hospital who've been intercities planting evidences. With the ones on my street involved wire crimes of the Wethersfield police refusing to identify themselves properly, refusing to get on paper. It's a whole bunch of people tied to it. Kevin Dillon and a guy who said it was his partner to my speech class. Never personally had a conversation with either of them. Also, there was an affidavit of a Chris Walters about how he changed it. It had something to do too. I don't know Sal Saviola and his neighbor. They try to make a fake exception. And there's the one when I went one meeting with Cub Scouts. We didn't even talk. In other words, he just wanted to be him and his neighbor, which a Richard Dabrowski is one of the ones people associated with him, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have rules of Wausau wire crimes with the police, whether they know that or not, and other natures of federal crimes with their neighbors and people associated with body dumping spots that increasingly keep getting brought up and got brought up with the confessions that brought up the campus. WFSB also has a Dr. Laura Saunders and others with the Institute of Living associated with this Leahy family for fabricating conversations with me. And since I was a kid, there's a Brian Silver associated with them and a Rick Cianfaglione, where they've been spying on me and not even knowing me, and then using those truths for lies and just completely making things up behind my back between the kids because of their roles with the intelligence families. It has something to do with their roles with the departments individually grouped together and their roles with acting professors at the corners of streets on Church Street in Old Wethersfield with the news involved with predicate acts and with the people with their educators involved. Increasingly, people tied to a Mr. Neville have roles who had me in a middle school, summer school class with people who weren't in my class in the eighth grade. And he stole my poem, in other words. He has something to do with his roles with intelligence all along Route 3. In the spots, it has something to do with the roles, like where there used to be an Omni place. There's a bank there. And there's like a credit place there. It's not far from the corner of Town Line Drive and Southston Highway. And these are people involved with a per them with a Pito Cardona who fought a Paul Spadafora. I fought Paul Spadafora. I've only been boxing for a year. He whipped me. I could not even touch him in the finals of I whipped him like that the day before in the finals of the Ohio State Fair in Ohio, and that was '95 though. I believe it was '95. Mike Oliver fought Gary Russell that year. Gary Russell's a good fighter. Mike Oliver's a good fighter. No, I don't know what happened, but the people that were involved with the World Trade Center attack and people who were planting evidences on my campuses from Weathersfield, they've been lying to people and using with the boxing gyms with judges and prosecutors and the FBI, other police forms, people associated with the state police, whiting forensics is increasingly involved with the Joshua Juliet and a Joshua Stryker and a Joshua Schumack. Involved intercities, they planted evidences, and with people in my area associated with them, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, me since I was a kid. That's why they won't get on paper. They have a dean, judge, kids, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and people that live next to Zion Street, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Involved, they influenced a judge, a Dean Alford, to further federal evidences crimes with the FBI director and his co-defendants and the Joshua Stryker, who had fake conversations with me, lie about himself to me and to others and to girls at Trinity College and other campuses I went to behind my back too. Little coward game. And against a younger kid. In other words. So you guys are playing coward games. Get them on paper because they have roles. That's what also brought up the principal child abusers campus. Then they lied to the teachers and hid what I caught them doing. Also medical offenders of kids, foreign and domestic. Again, there's a Dr. Laura Sanders. I never met her. But there's ones that are switching and forging names. And there's a doctor, there's a Judge Killian also involved with them, with digital crimes, with rape threats, and other natures of sexual crimes, roles with putting speaking fake things in records, and with the Judge Smith and the people associated with the prosecutors associated with this somebody Bajerio. And it has something to do with his roles with the intelligence next to Central Connecticut State University. There have been all kinds of natures of predicate acts and federal evidences crimes. And its roles apparently with them establishing undercover of identities appears to be what the kind of excuse they're getting away with it for. But they're leaking this because they're refusing to identify themselves. And they're demonstrating a tie to that. Because once they get on paper, you will see this. Central Connecticut State University had roles before the World Trade Center attack with the people in the Manhattan context, leading up to it long term to that place. The World Trade Center has roles with natures of industries that can't be entertained, and then a voice have free speech without having quality aspects in nature demonstrated, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, and being and having been used remotely as collusion /S with the worst use /S of our locations. One of the ways to discern it is how it originally and still uses difference /S. It has the differences. It hurts people sickly distinct. It hurts differences sickly distinctly black pupils. So it can measure and maintain role self-value with how sickly non-distinctly is left out, but people are going to speak about reason, about what's scientific perspective. Anyway, scientific perspective of integrity doesn't leave out how we have black people's rights of eyes in these revelations projected about difference /S by nature itself, And further too, it doesn't leave out how the breaching method assign roles, communicating other for nature, except for where and how nature is only nature has criminal insidiousness. Nature itself wants us to discern the difference between nature as criminal insidiousness only. Positive only as criminal insidiousness. But the breaching method knew that nature would continually demonstrate this to us. It designed the suburbs reliant upon food resources from other locations /s because it's tactically denatured, let alone the cities. See, but space/existence means come out of nowhere, and it's positive everywhere at once, or else we sense. If we go by evolution's means to cause positive value, nature progressions, acts, nature means out of nowhere. It is more probable that ancient pantheism was led by this identity of hyper appreciation of it. English was revealed to teach. For example, is proof is more if we appreciate the period as the point of real possession and the comma as the shadow of possession, we would put it a period associate would be associated with an independent clause, a complete unobstructed subject and predicate identity relationship to itself, which again, every self has that self that we cannot be, but we are it anyway. In other words, just like we didn't invent how even the bugs have quality aspects, nature, a consciousness, awareness too. That is distinct from ourselves, but also non-distinct. Earth has an especial difference that nature has been showing us, but people pretend this is debatable, which should be fine. But while they're pretending it's debatable, they're getting away with it by roles with criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw use of location/s. Because that's also what the breaching method knew that is one of the things that non-distinctly would be shown to each person about what's hurting each person. See, the president's leaders are prevented free speech and equality of fact-cheating nature distinctly from individuals. But as individuals, that's how it's possible to, no matter how powerful a leader could get, if you're above locations, areas, and states, and groupings from any grouping of countries that still has locations, areas, and states, with entertaining fact-cheating nature, quality aspects in nature, entertained formally. You can't defend that also at the same time. I never had a verbal conversation with Kevin Harris in my life. It had something to do with the military next to the state capitol and their roles all along Hangdog Lane and its conjunctions, like 2 Highway, has roles with a whole bunch of probate court judges, family members, and superior courts, and their family members in intimate ties with the same exact house /s that had wire crimes with the police since they were kids. And the difference of people forced them or their roles with it is also used. This breaching method was sophistication here before our founders were born. And it's still a superior sophistication, and that's observable when you guys speak, leaving out the breaching method, blaming other things, others, ourselves, where how our founders wanted us to clearly understand how it was illegal for people to even be found out having been speaking about building infrastructure out of internationally monitored conversations, which I learned in notes at Central Connecticut State University, even if that was made up. In other words, we know that was true because whoa. And so when people are hurt and they're trying to have legal representation, whether you're black or white, whether you're using black or white as a value, leaving that out, you're observably a collusion. It's on a mass scale. They put fake conversations between people, fake ties between people. And then when they try to speak about it, like especially it's easy to do now because we're online, but they're lying about what they think about it so we don't get heard because they're refusing to identify themselves into branch because they have been roles with crime methods, predicate acts with facts methods, switching names, forging names, extortion, torture, and slavery, and delusions when they use words like radical and extremism. If the presidents don't entertain the locations, areas, and states that way, they even get the shooting at them. That's worse than just criminal incompetence. With the shooting and the reporting of it, and how they leave out how really and why really. So there's something to do with nuclear and trying to keep people's energy. Now they're in this context that has been played out. And so people have to heat their homes or whatever. Do they have electricity? But see now it's through systems that are only going to keep demonstrating more. No one has free speech, and everyone's directed to hide things relative to how even peaceful nuclear energy generation, is a standing death trap, especially when war is the solution of the advanced countries to still use remotely criminally foreign influence. A through Z have another name involved, and it's a method of keeping other things, others, ourselves blamed. And this breaching method knew because it was lying, but involved with people's he said, she said, in conversations and roles of behavior of people. A whole bunch of people tied to a Pat Vincent. I never had a conversation with Pat Vincent in my life. It has something to do with their roles all along Route 175 from the founding location. People who were put in classes with me to behind my back do little sneaky things with the Marines and a whole bunch of different foreign countries. And people with the name Fred Grisey, people next to the campuses are used to plant evidences, including whoever, I don't even know the name of the person who broke the window. But I threw it on the ground, and they knew that when they arrested me for different things, and other kids they arrested at New Britain Superior Court. New Britain Superior Court and Harper Courts, they have rules with differences racketeering. They have some black KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, even black white female judges involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and different, a Samuda, a detective Samuda, switching and forging names in falsified police reports with East Hartford intelligence has something to do with their roles with a whole bunch of different boyfriends, interstates in their campuses of a Bobby Jean. And it's another person, but as the ones with the no, they're trying with the judges and prosecutors on Covington Street, and with the intelligence families on my street in Weathersfield, increasingly with the spots next to Central Connecticut State University, as with people that have been planting predicate acts with facts roles on and off the campuses, federal evidences crimes, mail crime methods, wire crime methods, digital crimes. More people tied to a Joshua Stryker and a Joshua Julian and a Joshua Schumacher and his mother, involved also with more Jewish people in different religious spots, involved with them with identity theft, fraud, slanders, federal evidences crimes, and with the people next to Fox Connecticut News and WFSB and WTNH involved with these names involved. And these are people that sought me out. I never tried to seek them out. And when I was the exception, I try to, they try to pretend that you're lying with that consciously, because these are roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases in the courts themselves, in the police forms themselves. It was proven after the World Trade Center attack in the attack context from inside the court itself. The court had been used to re- change the date that papers were legally brought to the court. That was then proven, and that led up to a 2006 district court case in Connecticut. Has something to do with co-defendants, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and their neighbors, and their roles with a Brian Silver and a Robert Chevrolet as a lawyer, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants. And he was warned by the judge on the wall, a picture in the wall, not to appear if that case ever came without a lawyer. Because also the names next to his lawyer's spot are involved, like with Jonathan Maiano. And he's involved with people with the three spots at the end of the Burnham Turnpike, with people with the name Spada. There are people with the name Spada and Della Fera who have been planting evidences, identity thefts and frauds and slanders with the names like the name Cololo brought up by the Weatherfield police in confessions with their forging and switching names. And by the Chris Walters with confessions and his roles with names involved, like the name Kerr. There's a Jerry Kerr that was brought up by Officer Jerry Miller on Facebook. He was lying and saying that he saw me growing pot on the northern side of my house. They've been planting evidences on all sides of my house, and with the David Smith and Jamie Smith, they have roles with fire departments, and with their mother, with the FBI director, and their roles with Afghan military intercities on off Fox Connecticut, on off Harvard Hospital, with the people that, with the guy who threatened to stab my eyes, and I didn't even respond verbally or physically. And in other words, then they took the kid away, and I never got to talk to that doctor. In other words, and he was with another family. They said there's two families with the name Pierce. I never had conversations with them. In other words, they try to make fake exceptions. Has something to do with, in other words, don't get mad at me, Pierce. There's a Leahy family, and there is a Judge Killian who will need to get on paper, and there are doctors associated with some sexual and medical offenders, including digital, and their roles through the mail, fake conversations with me. And they have the Facebook page of Judge Napolitano involved too, before he worked and since. I've been asking you guys, get them on paper, one name in sequence. I want a response. See Renaissance. And the kids that were in my class, that were in my grade, that I never even had classes with too. In other words, they a whole bunch of people went into intelligence into the branch that are criminally foreign influence tactical delusions raw relative to the readings of American history. A certain type of victim / hyper victim predator, hyper predator, incapable of making syntax proper, name uses proper. It's roles with their role. It's a whole bunch of people tied to a Mike Del Ferro and a John Del Ferro have been attaching me to fake locations. And they have brothers, I don't even know the names of them. Has something to do with their roles along the Route 175, along the roads and routes and town lines. And their roles with the military, with the boxing locations, identity theft, fraud, slanders behind my back, and their roles with the people with the wire crimes and the falsified police reports with the courts and police that are refusing to get on paper since I was a kid. In other words, and they're attaching kids to little fake. They're attaching and they're using the rights to lie to where they don't have the right to lie. Every year, increasingly, to kids' parents, because the differences between overt criminal enterprises and private ones are also involved with these same names. There are overt criminal enterprises involved with a Judge Smith, a prosecutor named Salisbury, a Brian Silver. They have a Rick Cianfaglione involved with people next to Hartford Hospital, also with a Eric Jensen and Joe DeMoro. And they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Ray Reynolds, increasingly people tied to Ray Reynolds, is involved with state police corruption, interstates, and FBI, and co-dependents of FBI and their neighbors, involved with the judges, prosecutors, and whiting forensics, including increasingly like with the people associated with this, Joshua Julian, and Facebook, involved with all natures of organized crime, just like the campuses are. Then they're talking about men going in the things, and you have things that appear to be debatable to you because it is measured and maintained. You have not one person being trained to speak for the law properly, to speak for America's name properly. Judge Napolitano, his sources, sickly distinctly from the news, are up online every day, framing America, because you guys have other communicators for George Washington, let alone James Madison and the founders behind him and his plan, who went to go and got George Washington to agree to use that plan. And we were supposed to be honest about the extortion of George Washington. You guys want to have need to have a nature debate that values your titles like Cain and Abel, or like, I don't want to use that part because the Old Testament says only defend this part right here and the part that became before it. So I'm not going to bring that part up. But you guys bring that up so I can pull out your delusions from your criminally foreign influence, fact, true nature, qual aspect nature. Not you, Vice President Harris and former President Trump. But A through Z, you guys, this is important to understand that plan of James Madison and the nature of those laws and the singular method by it, which put all rules with it as a whole bunch of methods forced by nature itself. Just like nature itself forces boxing style to emerge in someone if they're going to have a number, they want to make money at it and sustain fights, you have to develop nature forces it. In other words, in boxing, in other words, especially shadow boxing, there is one way to fight where everyone wins, even those who lose. You are shown your weakness aerobically. How many people need exercise? Because we have been on systems individually grouped and all together, tactically ulterior from nature's system with relativity to positive and negative. That's what it's showing us when it shows us cell, body, cell, and positive or negative, the gases in their and their mixture. Positive or negative, the water and its mixture. And we're being charged for things we don't need to be charged for. And at the same time, as collusions with other natures of torture, extortion, slander, and sabotage. This preaching method has the Paul Kelly too and his neighbors. That WTNH recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's also, I don't know her maiden name, but there's a Michelle Sandquist, who's also one of the ones involved with the Lance Cuddy. I didn't respond to her. She's involved with that was in my 6th grade class. Increasingly, they put a Rob Heimgartner's tied to me because people involved with his neighbors and his roles with a Debbie Gold, and her father was a mayor at the time, and there's another mayor before that. They've been putting fake things in databases, and they've been collusion with foreign and domestic medical families. UConn for a long time has had roles with Hartford Hospital, with psychiatry people and databases, also ones with badges, including military, foreign and domestic. They're putting fake things in databases and through the mail. They have been under the guise of healthcare. There have been more scams than there are streets in Hartford. More scams than there are houses and streets in Hartford at the same time. And they have been charging people for this fraudulent, worse than fraudulently. And they've been refusing to identify themselves and planting fake things in records with a Judge Killian, who's one of the judges involved criminally foreign influence with the fact-cheating natures behind the uses of Judge Napolitano's Facebook page and judging what people say when we complain about others' behavior on like Facebook. Facebook has roles with proven child digital offenders of kids. New Britain Superior Court has roles with Facebook individually, people that were associated with their ad placements too. It looked one of them looked just like I remember her face, but I never had a class with her, and I hardly ever. I saw her one time at a corner. A Celeste Wells. They try to make a fake exception of me knowing her. This is one of the ones involved with the fire departments, and their roles with the news, and the subjects and the subject treatments relative to their roles too, with the uses of right to lie where they don't have the right to lie, and uses of narratives by oaths, the value of oaths. People took oaths while they were tactically delusions wrought and criminally foreign influence, factory nature, quality aspects, nature of collusion. We have little kids have black people's whites of eyes can discern that. And this breaching method knew that it would be relative to their subject treatments and which ones would be able to do it when what relative to what and when. This breaching method showed all formal identities law are private and opinion natures A through Z. They have to blame other things, others themselves. And they have to self-value that if you entertain. In other words, please fix the fake conversations with me about the World Trade Center attack, which was simultaneous with other natures of organized crime and roles of the principal child offender. Also, there are more people involved with the policing of the campuses that are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. And we're going to examine it's implied they're implying they have roles with nuclear. Why the Russians and Americans are together involved with ones I don't know the name of. I don't even think it's the Pruda family at the corner of Griswold Street and Maple Street, and at the corner of Griswold Street and Fairlane, and other corners on Griswold Street. Mark Violet and others with Hartford Hospital recorded capacity demonstrate confirmed they have roles with criminally foreign influence uses of the corners, federal evidences crimes, and their roles all along Route 175 in conjunctions to it, Ridge Road. They have roles with the Mazzucato family, with retired police chiefs involved with foreign and domestic medical offenders of kids, identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. Something to do with their roads all along Route 3 and Route 175 involved with this. Get them on paper with these are people involved with violence on all sides of my house, with the names involved with the Hartford Hospital, with the doctors and their patients, planting evidence, including in their roles with the Wethersfield town offices, and they're leaking this way and pretending other, because that's what they do when you record them in extortion. You have to record both how they're pretending other, but they are other recorded other being communicated. So get them on paper because it was pretended through the mail. I couldn't even get them myself onto paper. So get them on paper because they also some Wethersfield police, they didn't identify themselves, but they blamed the Wethersfield police chief. There were at least two former Wethersfield police chiefs involved with the same house /S involved with this, and all the ones that talked to them, record, express, demonstrate, confirm. They're in other words, nothing personal. They're trying. This is a game. They have roles with a whole bunch of different countries with this. Has something to do with the roles with Taekwondo places and the guys there and people associated with the people that went there that involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. I don't know the Daryl Chandler. He was used to plant evidences with people increasingly involved at Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University, with federal evidences crimes also next to the campuses, like next to Harvard Hospital and fire campuses. And this Joshua Stryker involved that with the Dean Alpert's confessions and confirmations. There were students from Weathersfield High School and from Trinity College that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Joshua Stryker who's been spreading lies about himself and about me, fake ties and fake natures of ties to me, with people from my street involved with him also at Trinity College and CCSU, planting federal evidences, crimes, predicate acts roles there, and with judges and prosecutors and their family members. We need to get them on paper, please. See.